Well, we're going to get started. We're going to gather some more chairs together. We are very thankful that you're here and happy that you guys have chosen to take interest in this obviously very crazy and wild world that is the internet. I'm Katie Casada. I'm the high school director here. I know a lot of you, but not all of you. Woohoo! Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm Joe Jardine. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist and a professor at Vanguard University.
Where we are both alumni.
Yes, we are.
Great school. So we're going to start off this session with a clip from a movie that I recently watched. I don't know if I would recommend the movie, which is always a kind of tough thing to do, is show a clip from a movie you wouldn't necessarily recommend. I don't do that with students, don't worry. But it's from the movie This Is 40, which is semi-inappropriate. But this clip from this movie made me laugh hysterically because of how much I have seen this as teenagers' view of what's going on here. And right before this clip shows, this is a YouTube clip, and this was all that was available on YouTube, but right before this, the family sits down for dinner, 2 daughters. One is around, you can tell, 9, and one's around 15. And they sit down for dinner, and the mom decides all of a sudden they're gonna start eating healthier and have less time on the internet. And so they sit down to the dinner table, and how this conversation goes is, before the clip begins, the conversation goes like this. We are eating healthier, and nobody's allowed on their phone except for between 8 and 8:30. Okay? And the teenage daughter, of course, loses it, and all begins, and she yells, "What are we gonna do now?" And that's where this clip starts.
You need to get outside more. Do some playing outside.
Yeah, you can build things out. You could build a fort outside.
What?
Yeah, build a fort. Play with your friends and have
Make a fort outside?
Yeah.
And do what?
Have little.
Do what in the fort?
When I was a kid, we used to build tree houses and play with sticks.
Nobody plays with sticks.
You and Charlotte can have a lemonade stand.
Play kick the can.
Look for dead bodies.
That's fun. That's fun to do.
Get a tire and then just take a stick and run down a street with it.
Nobody does that crap. It's 2012.
You don't need technology.
No technology.
Charlotte, put that
That's good.
So I've seen and we've seen over and over again, Joe and I, just this overwhelming detachment between a way that a generation grew up and a way that another generation is growing up, and just the way that that is causing such conflict. And I love that line, "What am I gonna do in the fort?" When the daughter looks at the parent right in the eyes, honestly, and says that. And I know that it's hard to build boundaries, especially the older your student is, and that's kind of why we're here and what we're thinking. I've seen in my own ministry this running like wildfire. I mean, there's no stopping it, there's no turning back. It is out of the gate, and so now we just have to figure out what to do, because there's no way to start over, there's no way to try harder or do it differently, especially if you already have a preteen and a teen, it's too late. So now the question is, what now? And that's kind of what I've seen is a lot of my heart with students. One of the things that I've seen most recently is parents who don't let their kids see rated R movies, but they don't have safety internet protection in their home. Like the disconnect there, I'm like, what's going on here? Like you can't, what? You know, like there's just such a funny line there. And I'm realizing this has to be more holistic. We have to talk about it on a family level. And that's a large part of kind of what my heart has been in this, and what I've seen and experienced with a lot of your kids or students, or maybe about to be your kids and students, is just the ways that this can go so painfully wrong so quickly. And there are practical ways that we can work towards avoiding that together with some easy steps and kind of what that might look like. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I know that's a lot of Joe's heart too.
Yeah, and kind of our goal tonight is kind of threefold. We do want to educate guys as much as we can about what's out there, kind of what apps to be aware of. Maybe the top 5 like kind of scary websites you guys need to be aware of as well. We do want to, and as well, equip you as much as we can when it comes to, okay, how do we protect? What does it look like? That's why your notes, you realize, is kind of like a thickness of anything and everything we could throw at you. There's no way.
A very large appendix.
There's no way we can go through all that. There's no way every person's going through all that, so we understand that every parent's going through that. But these you have stuff that we believe works, stuff that we give parents, and we want to hopefully you guys use it for your families. And lastly, we really want to encourage you guys that Katie and I, we want to walk with you during hard times or difficulties when it comes to technology. We know that kind of in the past, the big thing we always said was like the active enemy when it comes to our kids was like pornography. You know, that's like the big scare. And really, we talked about a lot is kind of technology in general now. It's not just pornography, although it's part of it, but really the active enemy that we're really concerned about, it is technology, whether it's going to be about, you know, the computer, or if it's the iPad, or if it's any type of screen that in any way welcomes in our families. anything that could be either tempting or any way can be dysfunctional for our kids. And we talk a lot about this talk. We're kind of worried about the last 3 weeks that we don't want those people to come up there and do like the scare tactics. We don't want to be like, here, we're going to scare you. We just kind of really want to just be evidence-based. We want to be matter of fact. We want to help you guys with the why behind it. Like, what exactly is going on with these brains? Are you guys just making this up, or are you guys just talking about your top 10 worst cases of all time? No, we want to give you guys some real stuff here. And we want to hopefully that will help you guys out. Now, so we looked up stats. So the stats were about 50 pages long, and we narrowed down to only a few, so don't worry. So we're not going through all of them. But something that we felt was the key here is this, is that one of every 9 people on Earth have Facebook, right? No surprise. People spend about 700 billion minutes per month on Facebook. Why is this so concerning for us? Because the newest, or I think the top research comes to Facebook, we have it in you guys' back of your appendix, is this research right here that I gave to you guys. And mainly what it talks about is this. People, mainly women, are going on Facebook, mainly teen girls, and they're going on there, and what they do on there, they just click nonstop pictures. Oh my gosh, she looks so great. Why can I have that dress? Why can I go to that party? Why do I look like that, right? And that's what's happening. They find out the byproduct of this is creating this sense of jealousy among women, and it's creating high anxiety. And they're finding out that one of the top sources of eating disorders is actually coming from this comparison spirit. As Amy Katie talked about it, we get girls that come in and say, I wish I could see my collarbone, I wish I could see my ribs, I wish I have a gap between my legs. And they go over and over and over. And interesting part about, although teens say, Facebook, I don't go on there anymore, they go on there, right? And they end up following people or pages on there that are like Victoria's Secret models and stuff like that. And we hear it, and it's just like, oh, and so this is good research about Facebook and what it's doing to our women and to girls when it comes to creating anxiety, comparison spirits, and that kind of stuff. 57% of teens flirt on the internet. 38% of teens engage in explicit online sexual conversations. 31% have had online conversations that's led to in-person sex versus not in-person sex, which I don't know what that is. But that's a different talk altogether. Katie will talk about later on. Psychology Today, this is interesting. Psychology Today this past summer reported that Facebook and Twitter are more addictive than alcohol and tobacco right now. They also report in their research on Psychology Today that it's even more difficult to overcome. The reason why in my profession right now is we don't have a lot of treatment plans for it. This is really brand new. It's a different type of addiction we're talking about here in a second. But we have a lot of treatment plans when it comes to alcohol and drugs. But when it comes to internet addiction, we just don't have a lot to go with by now. We're just learning a lot more about it now, but don't really know what the treatment plans are. So because it's one of the most difficult to overcome. The most common word in divorce papers based on 2010 census was Facebook. Do you guys know that? Interesting, right? 9 out of 10 children, 90% of children ages 8 and 16 have been exposed to pornography. The word porn is the 4th most searched word by kids under the age of 7. Right? So my son, Soy Joy, Sorry the Warrior for God, we call him, right? Probably searching Little Tykes, God knows what else, maybe My Little Ponies, he's a little brony, whatever it may be. And their top word is pornography. Interesting, right? 60 million Americans are addicted to porn. 11 years old is the average age that porn is being seen for kids. 1/3 of porn users are women. We know that the porn industry is now pursuing women now than ever when it comes to their movies, mainly because of the 2010 census that women actually have more are involved with higher level jobs than men are, and are involved with more leadership roles than men are right now. And so because of that, they're making pornography more about them being in charge and leading. And so it's not rare right now for us to find women or girls, teenage girls, involved with pornography. The least day of viewing porn, Thanksgiving. The Cowboys are on, family's around, I can't get away. I had too much turkey, I fall asleep, I don't know, right? The most popular day every year for pornography, any given Sunday, the Lord's Day. 4%, although we believe this is more, but maybe because we're too involved with kids' lives.
I believe this is way more.
Okay, she thinks it's way more. 4% of teens have sent sexually explicit images over text messaging, aka sexting, right? 4%. We think it's more. 15% have received such images. So about 3 times more than that receive it. Why? person sends it and it sends all out, right? So we know a few years ago when it comes to the middle school locally, how that occurred, right? 95 to 97% of youth play video games of some sort, right? This is where in the back of your appendix you'll get two great articles. One's called Why Men Are in Trouble. Why Men in Trouble, they find out that boys are not becoming men, for those who have sons, is one reason they'll find out is because of video games and pornography, right? So you can read more about that later on. The second one, which is fantastic, written by Dr. Philip Zimbardo, who back in the day, if you took Psychology 101, the old Stanford experiment guy, right? Because there'd be the top psychologist in America. He's not really too keen when it comes to religion. He's kind of an atheist, right? But he talks about, where's our boys? Where's our men at? They're all boys. And he finds out the reason why he believes in his research is video games, pornography, but then he brings this in here. A lack of God in their life. He actually says a God, but we know it's the God in their life, right? Interesting that he would put that in there as well, right? Now, I bring up video games because every year there's some type of video game that comes out. So a few weeks ago, Grand Theft Auto, GTA came out, if you have sons, right? And all of a sudden, overnight, I get the phone calls about 5 new clients about this internet game addiction of GTA. And the sad part about it is these parents are buying kids games like GTA, Grand Theft Auto, and I'm not sure parents know, but you're basically playing the game of a pimp. And there's nudity in there. You're selling drugs. You're selling women. It's pretty disgusting, right? And what happens is before this one, it was Call of Duty Part 2. I think it's Black Ops. And kids would play a massive amount of times. And they continue to play for hours upon hours and missing school. And there'd be school avoidant issues occurring. And it's interesting because of what? Of video games. Why is that happening? We'll get to that in a bit. Average teen sends about 3,500 texts per month. More females than men, mainly because women have something called oxytocin in their system, which means they want to belong, they want to connect, they want to know what's happening, and guys are kind of like, whatever. And then something I did not put in your guys' appendix because Katie says we're running out of paper is Newsweek in July 2012 had a great article called I Crazy, The Panic, Depression, Psychosis, and How Connection Addictions Rewiring Our Brains. It's a great article about how technology is causing mental illness in our teens. Next, I'm not sure if you guys heard the big news, but Facebook is officially no longer number one when it comes to teens. Twitter is number one. 26% of teens have Twitter, 23% has Facebook, the other 23% has Instagram, both owned by Facebook, by the way. The other one's Tumblr, the other one's Google. If you feel like we're speaking Spanish, we'll explain it at the end, what it all means. We're moving fast because we want questions at the end. Next here is something that comes up when in mental health a lot in the last couple of years is we call something called Facebook depression among my colleagues. And we call it Facebook depression because we find that, yes, anxiety is occurring, but also depression is occurring. And depression occurs is when all of a sudden parents have a boundary and the parent takes away a computer or takes away a iPhone or something like that. All of a sudden the kid gets depressed and sad. And we call it major depression, but yeah, we're finding out among us in my mental profession is that it's lack of Facebook. Well, sure enough, the DSM came out last May, and in there is now IAD, which is Internet Addiction Disorder. That we now see that there's a true addiction to internet when it comes to screens and that kind of stuff. It's called IAD. So as a parent, like I am too, what's going on here? What's happening? What's going on with the brain? And so we really feel like it's important that we talk about what's exactly is going on with the brain. So neuroscience found there's 6 things that are occurring with the brain when it comes to internet, right? And we're only going to talk about 4 of them because we feel like the top 4 is important. And after that, if you guys want to look it up, go ahead. And so all this is based on the fact that in your appendix G is the Pediatrics Academy of America. And they found out is a teenager from 13, 19 years old should only have 2 hours at the very most of screens a day. Computer, television, phone. No more than 2 hours a day. I see ages 0 to 2, and it says 0 hours. My son Soyjoy had about 3 hours of Barney today. He wakes up and he goes, Barney, right? I realized right away he's addicted to good old the purple dinosaur. And so pediatrics know what's going on. The brain, something's happening. Why does my kid automatically know Barney and doesn't know my name yet? What's happening here, right? Well, this is what's happening. The first part is this, is the pleasure center of the brain is being affected when a kid is on a screen more than 2 hours or more. And the pleasure part of the brain, right, what happens is this. When they look at screens for more than 2 hours, a dopamine level, a flood of it. Dopamine is your feel-good chemical. It's the part that says it's the reward center. I want more. I need more. I gotta have it, right? It floods to the brain, right? Flooding means over the amount that should happen. And so what happens is when they're on screens, specifically they find out social screens, watching Facebook, Twitter, texting, that kind of stuff, that it brings the flood in of it. And what happens is when the flood occurs, is an addiction is now beginning. So when you hear or see articles, read articles that say, internet affects the same part of the brain that heroin and meth does, what they find out from brain scans is when kids are on the internet for 2 hours or more, it's the same brain scan for people on heroin and meth and cocaine. So if you're taking anything away from your kid and they're like a drug addict, I need it more, I want more of it, right? Well, that's what kind of we're finding out is going on. And so the byproduct is when the dopamine level goes away, they feel like they need more of it and they crave it and they have a tolerance of it. And so the tolerance occurs like a real drug. And so when it's not there, that's when we see sadness, we see depression, we see the fact that they have inability to be gracious. Thank you, mom and dad. They have an inability to find the small things in life and actually enjoy it, like the stick with the tire, right? That kind of stuff, right? Or just regular TV again, right? And so we see that as somewhat of depression. But this is the key I want you guys to understand what makes it different from drugs. Drug addiction is that I want more of the same substance. While internet addiction is this, I want more of something different. I'll give you an example of how I've seen it in my practice. I have a kid who ends up looking at pornography. Maybe it's just a picture of a girl online. Dopamine influx all over, it's flooded. They go back online, they look at the girl again, nothing's happening. So guess what they need more? They need more dopamine, so they have to do something different. So from there, they go into a video. From there, the video has other stuff that goes on. The video gets sicker and sicker and sicker, you guys can imagine, and they need more of it. And that's where sexual addiction occurs. Make sense? It could happen in other ways too, when it comes to online games. You give a kid a game, a video game. They play the campaign, which is playing against the computer. They get bored of it after they finish it. I don't want to do it again. I already know what happens in there. When I walk in the room, 3 guys there, I'm going to kill them right away. Boom, boom, boom. Instead, when it comes to online gaming, which you're finding out, it's something different every time. So this is like the perfect drug for them. Because every time I play with people online, it's something different. I have no idea what's going on. And so we see when it comes to internet addiction is it's something more of something different. That's why texting is great. It's always something different when they text them. It's always something different when it comes to Facebook. You go on, new statuses and that kind of stuff. The next here is the brain's tranquility system. Your brain automatically releases tranquilizers, guys. And it makes you feel peaceful and relaxed. The first 2 hours on screens, your brain releases tranquilizers. So it relaxes your child. Kids crying, here's your iPad. Let's make dinner a little bit easier, right? In the first 2 hours, the kid's like, yes, this is good. After the 2 hour mark, what happens is the tranquilizers disappear and cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is released in a flood, a massive amount. So cortisol is what makes you anxious, makes you worrisome, it stresses you out, right? If you have general anxiety disorder or taking anti-anxiety, it's because it's blocking the cortisol from being released. Makes sense? So what happens to kids is the cortisol is released. When that happens, they're stressing out. Why is cortisol so bad for our kids? Following reasons. Number one, it keeps the brain or it blocks the brain from releasing natural tranquilizers. So it blocks the kid from having peaceful, quiet, fall asleep, go to bed moments. It can't do it because the brain's overly stimulated by cortisol. Does that make sense? So the byproduct of cortisol is that our kids will feel anxious, worried, have panic attacks, be stressed out. Also, they can't sleep. And when our kids don't sleep, they're cranky. They're poopy pants, right? Kitty has them all night long sometimes. And we throw them back to you. Good luck, right? It's hard. And so what happens is when they don't sleep, and we found out, and one of the great stories one of the great stats I use even at the university is the fact that I tell the kids in the dorm room, if you have 4 or more electronics in your room, then you average about 4 to 6 hours of sleep only. So electronics could be turned off. That's a cell phone, iPad. It could be a VCR, whatever that is these days, right? A DVD player. 4 or more.
Roku.
A Roku. It could be any of those, and those equal 4 to 6 hours of sleep. So dorm rooms, these kids cannot get any sleep, poor guys, right? Next here is the fact that it's the brain's learning center. Maybe some of you guys might understand or see this in your child. When your brain is all your learning. Let me show you. We all learn through our brain. So what happens is this. Your brain has neural fatigue or brain fatigue. Brain fatigue is when your brain has an inability to learn or process. I'll give you an example. Your kid's doing homework. And when he does homework, he has his phone right next to him or her. And he's checking texts, Facebook. Maybe the fact is the TV's on. Every time there's a disruption or distraction during time of learning, like homework, what it does is it creates brain fatigue, is what we call it. And brain fatigue occurs, the kid cannot learn anything new. They cannot in any way take on what they're doing. Does that make sense? So how does this play out? It plays out in a couple of ways. Number one, the kid gets really frustrated, has tantrums during work. It's like, I can't do it. And then we say it's ADD. That's what's going on. It's ADD. It's not. It's brain fatigue. Or the kid does the homework, but then he doesn't turn it in. There's that kid, right? And we find out that the kid that doesn't turn it in it's not an ADD moment. We find out it's more brain fatigue at times. What happens is they don't know where they put it at, or they forgot they even did it, and so they don't turn in. And that's what we're finding out. And so it affects that part of the brain. The last part that it affects has to do with attachment. And so the attachment part of the brain is about love. It's about how we love. It propels men into dating, into wanting to get married, wanting to have kids. It propels women to be having connections and that kind of stuff. And so when it comes to the attachment part of the brain, what we're finding out, and I think it's best said by a neuroscience, he says this, is recent neuroscience points to pathways to the brain that are necessary to hone interpersonal skills, empathetic abilities, and effective personal instinct. Our children who have been raised on technology, these interpersonal neural pathways are often left unstimulated and underdeveloped. So basically, let me sum it up for you. 2D relationships with our kids do not create relationships. It enables isolation. This is why you have the kid who somehow fell in love with this guy or girl who they met once, twice, or never at all. And they're like, I love them. They're amazing, right? And it's a false sense of security. It's a false sense of intimacy. And so then all of a sudden you take it away and they freak out and you're thinking, oh my gosh, they just really love them. No, we know what's going on. It's the dopamine levels of that machine that gives them what makes them feel good. They're reacting from that. And it's not because of the fact that it's the person they're connected with. It's actually because of the fact that it's more of an addiction. The other part of it is they believe there's something there that's actually not there. It's actually fake. And actually, I don't have Katie talk more about when it comes to relationships and such when it comes to technology.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to show you guys a quick video. I think we'll be able to turn it up so it's a little bit louder for you guys. But this is, I think, a great way to sum this up. I also want to clarify that when Joe says our kids and our kids and our kids, I hope that some of you empathize. This is us too, right? Like, this is me. I'm on my phone every night. This is a lot of us in this room, especially, that we're training our minds and bodies to operate this way, and we're seeing a lot of loneliness, as Joe said. So this is a 4-ish minute video. Can you turn it up a little bit? That's up all the way. Oh, that's on. Oh, this is connected to the video. Listen carefully.
A simple thought. Monkeys, that are known to have a developed social life, organize in small groups of several dozen members. The size of each of these groups is limited. In order for them to function, all members of the group need to know each other well. The average size of the group changes from 20 to 50 members. When the number of monkeys in a group passes a certain threshold, the social order crumbles, and the group tends to split into two separate groups. A similar situation can be found amongst humans as well. The invention of language and gossip has helped us shape larger and more stable groups. Sociological research indicates that the maximum natural size of a group of humans is roughly 150 members. Most humans are just incapable of intimately knowing more than 150 people, so even today, the threshold of human organization is around the number of 150 members. Man is a social creature, and the feeling of loneliness can drive him mad. Yet the Western and modern world sanctions individuality. The individual is measured by personal achievements, such as having a career, wealth, a self-image, and consumerism. In this course of action, many people lose their social and familial connections in favor of a self-actualization ideal. As the social fabric in the Western world weakens, it is not surprising that more and more people define themselves as lonely, and thus, loneliness has become the most common ailment of the modern world. One of the possible reasons for this ailment is the online social network. In a world where time is money, in which our surroundings heavily pressure us to achieve more and more, our social life becomes tainted and more demanding than ever before. And then there's technology. Simpler, hopeful, optimistic, ever young. We become addicted to virtual romance, disguised by the social network which supplies an impressive platform that allows us to manage our social life most effectively. However, our fantasies about substitutions are starting to take a toll. We're collecting friends like stamps, not distincting quantity versus quality, and converting the deep meaning and intimacy of friendship with exchanging photos and chat conversations. By doing so, we're sacrificing conversation for mere connection, and so a paradoxical situation is created, in which we claim to have many friends while actually being lonely. So what is the problem in having a conversation? Well, it takes place in real time, and you can't control what you're going to say. And that is the bottom line. Texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present the self as we want it to be. We get to edit, and that means we get to delete. Instead of building true friendships, we're obsessed with endless personal promotion, investing hours on end building our profile, pursuing the optimal order of words in our next message, choosing the pictures in which we look our best, all of which is meant to serve as a desirable image of who we are. We're expecting more from technology and less from each other. The social networks aren't just changing what we're doing, but also who we are. And that's because technology appeals to us most where we are most vulnerable. And we are vulnerable. We are lonely, but we're afraid of intimacy, while the social networks offer us 3 gratifying fantasies. 1, that we can put our attention wherever we want it to be. 2, that we will always be heard. And 3, that we will never have to be alone. And that third idea, that we will never have to be alone, is central to changing our psyches. It's shaping a new way of being. The best way to describe it is, I share, therefore, I am. We use technology to define ourselves by sharing our thoughts and feelings, even as we're having them. Furthermore, we're faking experiences so we'll have something to share, so we can feel alive. We slip into thinking that always being connected is going to make us feel less alone. But we are at risk because the opposite is true. If we are not able to be alone, we're only going to know how to be lonely.
I can get you guys that video too if you want it. It's a great just conversation starter among peers too of kind of what that might look like. So as Joe talked about neurologically and physiologically what's going on with our kids, I am more of just what I'm seeing on the ground, what I've seen in case studies, what I've seen in students, how I've seen this change. I've told some of you guys this before, but I laugh whenever surveys finally come out. Like in 2010, we read, and I'm like, that was 3 years ago. Like that's none of my high schoolers. That's old news. Like we can't take surveys faster than we're receiving data right now. I feel like all these surveys are out of date, or Joe has this great book that was published fresh off the press for parents and social networking, and it says there's a new app that has just come out called Instagram. And I read it and I was like, we're already late. Like we can only literally keep up on blogs. Print takes too long, right? So how do we stay in the cutting edge and talk about this in a way that's healthy? Because there's a lot of things that we just have to catch before they start. And I know that that's scary and heartbreaking and feels absolutely exhausting to parents who are like, you think I'm gonna be able to know the latest app? Can't get my kid to school today. Okay, like it's too much. And we kind of wanna walk alongside you in that with things like this and just say, here are some big red flags. Here are some ways that we're realizing these are some big no-nos or some maybes or some fines. As Joe kind of shared with what's going on with the internet and the brain, I admit that I am a victim of this. I admit that I am on a screen for sure for more than 2 hours every day. I am for sure on a screen for longer than that. I'm following all your kids on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm seeing that more and more and more. And some of the basic things that I've seen relationally in high school students specifically involve 3 different areas, and that's obviously friends, relationships, and family. And I want to just kind of talk about how I've seen some of that play out. Friendships, when I've asked students, I have a great student leadership team. We have incredible students here who are so honest with me. I could not be more grateful for that, just so you guys know. You are raising great kids. You are doing a good job. And when they're honest with me about these kinds of things, which they can be, and I love, I've heard some really great feedback. One of the things I ask students is, do you think that Facebook or Instagram affects your friendships positively or negatively? And a student said to me, which I loved, it affects it positively if I know them. It affects it negatively if I don't. And I was kind of unpacking that more in my mind, and what they're saying is, if they're my friend, my actual friend, then we can talk and hang out and it's cool. But if I don't know them, and the student said, and I quote, if I don't know them, I just end up judging them. Right? Because they're just another person on the internet to talk about. I also asked, do you gossip more about things that happen at school or online? And they said, we spend more time online than at school, which I was like, awesome. Yeah, that's an entire school day. So they say kind of both. Like, I see it every day. I mean, I overhear students every day talk about, well, last night she posted this picture about this, all these kinds of things that I'm hearing over and over again and seeing over and over again in friendships. Kind of when talking more and more about friendships, what I'm seeing in high school relationships, which permeates into relationships and family, is a lack of the ability to have real life conflict. And this for me is a huge red flag. I've talked to students about this many, many times. We have had really difficult conversations. I have students look me in the eye and say, I'll text you later about this. And I'm like, you can't. I need you to sit down. You need to tell me about this right now. And they're like, and they just feel so much anxiety. And so I say, okay. And at 9 o'clock, I get a text, and it's like, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do. And I have to text them back and say, I would love to get coffee tomorrow. Because if I'm not teaching them, it's not going to happen. If we as adults aren't saying, this is not how you communicate about what's really going on, they're never going to learn that. And as we all know, how is that going to work in a marriage? I don't get to text my husband, I'm sorry. It doesn't work, right? So how are we teaching students that over and over again? Conflict is handled in person. I have a list of student leadership guidelines for the internet that I wish I would have given to you guys. I can totally send it to you, or if you have a kid in student leadership in this room, you can pass it around. But one of their standards is, I will carry out conflict in person. I will say to somebody to their face, I'm sorry. That was rude of me. That was mean. We have a huge sense of inauthenticity between students when it's like, I'm sorry, me too, fine, bye. And you never feel that anguish, you never feel that deep pain for the first time when you're young and you have to look at somebody and say, I was wrong. It hurts. So one of the ways I've seen that is conflict. Another way I've seen that is that kids have this power to count their friends. If you were at our last tech seminar, then I kind of went into this more in depth. But there's just an overwhelming sense that students' identities are found in their followers or how many friends they have. And a perfect example of this is when you were in high school, put yourself anywhere you were in high school, imagine if you actually wore a number around your neck of how many friends you had. It would have been awful, right? It would have been awful. There's no winning. There's one person who wins, and she's weird, right? But there's no winning here. And we have this unbelievable culture of students especially who pride themselves in their Instagram followers. Like, this is how many friends I have, Katie. I have this many friends. I'm like, who is Soccer Boy 93? I don't know, neither do you, okay? That is not your friend. And how do we kind of break that down more and more? It cannot be wrapped in your identity. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say I do not think Facebook is bad. I do not think Instagram is bad. I think that there are tons of sites that can be used in a healthy and appropriate way when watched by parents and family members, when a student who is healthy is encountering that piece of technology or that site or that app. But a lot of that gets lost developmentally in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. I know that that's a difficult season for a lot of you guys. It's already kind of the worst. You're like, dang it, like another thing. But I have seen for girls and boys specifically, the biggest mistakes are made in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm gonna go younger because a lot of your kids already have phones or something that they're technologically using. But 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, this developmental stage I am seeing is where the most damage is done. Identity is shaped, bad decisions are made, hurtful things are said that can't be taken back. I mean, imagine when a bully said something to you in school, but now they can read it over and over and over again. I mean, that unbelievable feeling of I can just go back on and check it. She said it. When we were younger, it was like she didn't say it or she didn't mean it, right? And she did, and it's right there. And that unbelievable hurt we have to protect our kids from in a really big way. And that might mean that in those specific ages, finding something for your family that works, that's developmentally appropriate. I don't have perfect guidelines for that. I think that every family is different. I don't know how much you're on it. One of my huge rules of thumb is if you are not on the site or app, if you don't have an account, your kid doesn't, okay? If you don't have a login or a password, if you don't have a way to go in and delete a comment if someone says something awful about your child should not be on that. You need to have that kind of protection for them. And that's kind of a small part of that, but relationally, what we're seeing in friendships is just this big sense of, if they're friends in real life, this is a fun way to connect. This is fine. This is fun. I use Facebook in high school ministry all the time. The amount of groups I have, if you opened my Facebook page, is comical. Like every event that we do, everything that we have, my whole site is groups. Students comment, people are encouraging, it's positive. It's kind of like looking into the lens of an unhealthy friend group and looking into the lens of a healthy friend group. It's not necessarily the technology they're using, it's who's using it, right? And that's a really big difference. The second is family. What I'm loving that I'm seeing a lot of recently is students wanting so badly like normal family ways, even though they're begging against it in their homes. I've heard students say over and over again, well, I just want to eat dinner with my family. Is that too much to ask? And I say right back to them, have you ever said that out loud one time? No, but they know it. No, they don't. You're on your phone on the couch, not coming to the table. That does not say, I want to have dinner with you. That says, I want to lay on this couch. And they're like, well, they should just know what I need while I fight against it with all of my being. But we're seeing that over and over again. I also love when students complain about their parents texting them while they're in the house. Like, my mom always texts me, like, come downstairs. And I'm like, is that because that's what works? Is that because that works better than when they yell your name? They're like, well, okay, maybe, you know? And there's such a funny line there. But what we're seeing is that with family units especially, thankfully a lot of our students have pretty healthy family structures. As with everything at Trinity, we say this all the time, if you're here, you're probably already a part of the solution. If you're in this room, you probably already care enough. If you're here and wanting to know more, you're on the track towards this being a really healthy thing. It's the families who aren't and would never think about it that we're way more worried about. So we're seeing them want like dinner time, a no phone zone, safety. What we've seen and realized and studied is that when kids were younger, they used to be bullied at school or have a hard day, and they could come home. When they were at a different stage in life, or when we were kids, we could come home, and home was sacred. Home was, this is our space and no one's coming in here. It never leaves them now, ever. It is always with them. You are always finding out the party you were invited to the night it's happening instead of the next day. You're finding out immediately. There's this word called FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's when you're like looking through your news feed and it's 9 o'clock on a Friday and you're like, FOMO, okay, like it's because everyone's doing something and didn't invite me in real time. And all of their friends are tagged in it. So it's on their wall. I mean, it's just a cycle that there has to be a space and boundaries and screen time where we can say to our kids, no, this is what's happening. It's happening in this house, and this house is safe. And we as a family are going to protect you. We want to do that with you, and we are for you. And creating those environments, especially for teens who will hate it and be mad at you and decide that you're the worst, is vital. And they want it and need it just like any other thing in a teen's life. Creating boundaries is the hardest stage, but they need it and they know it. And they don't know how to ask for it and they won't say it, but they're really desiring that safety and protection deep in their core. Last, obviously, is the creepiness of relationships, but I could talk about teenage relationships all day long outside of the internet. It's the weirdest. But what we're seeing more and more and more, though, is that a lot of really inappropriate things can happen. I talk to students all the time about the devil's hours. Is a huge joke I have, and it's 12:30 to 3:30. And I tell students, you should not be anywhere, ever, but bed during those hours, with no technology and no TV, and no one should be around. It should be dark and quiet, and you should be sleeping. Those are the only things that should happen between 12:30 and 3:30. Otherwise, this is the devil's hours, my friend. You take out your phone, donezo. You call somebody, donezo, right? You go to someone's house, donezo. There's just no way to succeed there. And we have to create those spaces and protect kids in that way. And a part of that, which Joe will talk about, is checking in your phones, turning technology off all the way. I mean, I've seen so many kids cheat the system, and they're honest about it, which is great, but we had a game at Catalina this year where we asked kids what the most trouble they've ever gotten in was. And one of our great students, like straight A all the way, who I was like, what did he do? And he raised his hand and said, my parents found out that after they turned off the internet at 10, I hacked it and I could turn it back on at 11. And I was like, yes, you are that smart of a kid. You're right. I would be very mad if I was your parent also. And that makes perfect sense. But that's kind of some of the things that we've seen relationally, the inability to handle conflict, the extreme feeling of being left out or missing out from all that's going on around you all the time, and just a real comparative spirit, as Joe mentioned. We have in Trinity student leadership team for high school students that you are not allowed to ever have a photo of yourself in a bathing suit on Facebook or Instagram. I don't want to bring that on to anybody. I don't want to encourage that. And students have said things to me like, but Katie, and I'm like, no, that's what half of my Facebook newsfeed is, and I'm friends with 500 high school students, is girls in bathing suits. Shut it down, okay? No, that is not good for our boys on the internet, and that's not good for our girls on the internet. We're creating a comparative spirit for a few girls who want to show off their body on the beach. It's very upsetting to me. Okay, anyways, I am like, guys.
Shut her down.
Yeah, guys, you do not get to do this every night and just post photos of that one time you took pictures on the beach. This is not who we are. So there's some practical things that I'm seeing relationally that is causing a great divide, but there's also some really positives, which I hope that you're hearing from us. This isn't just like bad news, bad news, bad news, bad news. Facebook, as you know, Instagram, as you know, Twitter, as you know, is connecting us in completely new ways. It's incredible, it's quick, it's fast. I joke with Jeff all the time about how when he was the high school youth pastor and when I was in high school, at the end of the night of student leadership, you would have to call 100 people. I was on the team who called, a calling tree, I think it was called. And you would say, hi, this is Katie from Trinity. Is Sean there? Like 50 times. I have a program where I can text all the students right now. And there's so many beautiful things about that and so many great ways that that works, but we're seeing some big divides relationally, which leads to some really practical things that we can do.
Yeah, and kind of some of what Katie's saying is we really believe that starts with the parents at home. We believe that with our family culture and that, you know, as parents, we could teach with our words, but we transfer who we are to our kids. And so if we don't want them to look at their phone during dinner time, we shouldn't look at our phone during dinner time. Something that we kind of made that hopefully maybe will work, maybe not work, is we actually give you guys some stickers. And we thought, okay, we really believe in talking to our kids here at Trinity. It's about filters. We call it the filters of the spirit. Not WWJD, like a little more deeper than that, right? That what would you do? And we kind of made these stickers hoping that would go on your laptop or somewhere the kid could see it. And basically just says is before you click, connect, or chat, ask yourself this: does it offend others? If it offends others, don't do it. Don't search it. Don't look at it. Don't look for it. Don't type it. Don't upload it. Does it bring others closer to God? Does it propel people closer to our Father, or does it compel them from God? That what you put up there, if you're on Tumblr looking at stuff as a child, are you, teenager, looking at stuff that glorifies God? If people were seeing it, they would say, okay, that right there symbolizes who our Creator is. And thirdly is does it connect, or does it disconnect me from others? I mean, does it alienate myself from others? There's some things that we see as that teenagers do. They put up there like, whoa, dude, you wonder why you're lonely and people think you're kind of odd or weird or strange? That's it right there. Don't put that on there.
And one of those things which we have in our student leadership guidelines is called vague booking. And that's kind of a term that's thrown around in high school ministry a lot. It's a huge no-no if you're on a student leadership team. And it's things like this: feeling sad, wish I had a friend, ... Wish tonight wasn't such a bummer, you know who you are, ... This happens all the time in student ministries, just so you know. It's a cry for help to 100 people. And what we're trying to teach them is you are allowed to ask 3 people for help, not 100. You're allowed to talk to somebody, not everybody. Right. Everybody does not know how to help you, ever. Right. But somebody and the right people can. Yeah,
and we really try to teach them is that keep things sacred. There's some parts of your life that needs to be kept sacred to mom and dad, to maybe an accountability partner, maybe the church counselor, maybe 1 or 2 good friends of yours. But really, we want to teach them to keep things sacred, because really, the internet a lot of times is just anti-sacred. Everyone knows, everyone finds out, and they don't really understand because that filter is not quite there yet for them to think the cause and effect. But we're hoping you guys, if you need more of them too, you have 100 computers at home. We have plenty more for you if you need it. But we want you guys to sit down and say, look, this is going to be on our computers right now. Or this is going to be back of your iPhone. We want you to ask these questions. We want to teach our kids filters. Some of the other filters like we talked about with the kids is, are you choosing your preference or God's praises? Are you choosing man's experience over the experience of God? And we talk to the kids this way, and we want them to teach and learn. This is how I want you to self-actualize. This is how I want you to think about stuff before you decide, versus just be so emotional and impulsive. We want you to learn that there's a cause and effect when it comes to things. I want you guys to turn to Appendix H. And this is stuff that we did some research, we're shocked about, didn't know about. We want you guys to know. Maybe you know it all already, which is great. But we're going to kind of walk through this, which is the internet access safety tips. It says here that ensure that your child does not have direct access to your router. A simple press of the reset button can cancel any protection that may have been set up by you. Once reset, most routers default to the factory settings and provide wide open wireless access with no protection of your information. You can use a service called Encircle This, Open DNS Family Shield. Open DNS Family Shield. This is a must in the Jardine family. It's a must in the Casada family. We want everyone to have this, right? And what this device does is it will protect any computer, iPhone, where maybe it's connected to your router, it will protect it, right? Do you understand? Including all browsers. So some kids we find during cabin talk at Catalina is, all right, Joe, I'm having a hard time with pornography. Well, you tell your parents about it. You need to kind of get the protection. No, they have the protection. So how are you getting through it? I use Google Chrome, and they have no idea because they think I use Safari, and on the side I'm doing this and that. So this what it does, it protects all browsers. Ones that we have no idea that's out there. Does that make sense? But this is the key part. It's free and doesn't slow down your internet. If you go to www.opendns.com, opendns.com, you could download it, and it's free, and it's great. It instantly blocks, the moment you download it instantly blocks all pornography sites. And the great part about it is it's continually updating 24/7 any new sites that the porn industry is putting up, it blocks instantly. So you don't have to do a refresh or search. It's continually doing it for you, as well as it's got flexible parental controls to protect internet connected devices in your home, so you can do different things that you want to do depending on what you want to do for your family. And it also protects this. Ready for this? Your kids' Xbox, PlayStation, Wii, DS, iPad, and even their iPhones. About 33% of schools in America are using this right now. It's a great resource, and it's free. Next here is that we want to set router enforced time limits. And with this program, you could put down if you want the internet to be turned off after an hour and turned back on. It's kind of nice. We didn't know that until we did the research. We're like, whoa, this is great.
And there's some really healthy families that I've seen at Trinity, and I've overheard conversations of kids saying, "Did you see that last night?" And the other kid's like, "No, my internet turns off at 10." And I'm like, yes.
Good.
I'm like immediately I take a little victory of I don't know what they're doing, but it's good.
The next one right here is look on your phone to see if you could get any wireless from your neighbors. I've had this a couple of times in my practice where we have a kid is dealing with pornography and parents I'm blocking everything. The computer, everything's turned off. The router's turned off. But the next door neighbor just has it open. And so I've had moms and dads go to the neighbor and say, look, we're really kind of dealing with this thing with our kids when it comes to the internet. Please put a password on your internet so our kid can't take it. So make sure that your kid can't get it anywhere else as well. Next here is we put down gaming systems, mobile devices, including laptops and that kind of stuff. And these are kind of the top ones that we realize that are really good and we recommend. First one is Be Secure Online. And it's the most endorsed. It's used for Windows only, by the way. And it's the most endorsed and trusted provider of parental controls. Dr. Phil likes it. Heck, if he likes it, we're good to go, right? Maybe not. I don't know. But the key part why we like this one is it filters out unwanted movies from Netflix. So we have heard from our kids that they watch this show and it's got this type of scene, or they watch this movie and we're like, how's this possible?
There is porn on Netflix, just straight up, just so everyone knows. There is porn on Netflix. Not even kind of porn, straight up porn.
And so it does, versus in-person sex versus out-person sex. I don't know. And so, anyways, when it comes to this is that it's based on what the rating is from Netflix, right? So it blocks it on Netflix. It blocks any type of video games or TV shows from Hulu and that kind of stuff. So it does a really good job in that area for Windows only. The iWonder Pro, guess what? It's for Macs. I wonder why, right? And kind of the same thing, but the cool part about this one is it utilizes a GPS technology where you can see exactly where your kids at or in the house using the internet. Are you on the internet? No. That's funny. iWonder Pro just told me now you're off. Great to hear, right? And so, right? And it also tells you what they're surfing on the web. They delete the history. I'm sorry, we have the history. Good old iWonder sent it to us. So that's for Macs only. Safe Ice, which is very popular, is for Mac, PCs as well. You use it for iPhones. We see a lot of people use that. We think it's great. Kind of does the same thing. It blocks. It gives you a lot of opportunities as parents. The Net Nanny, which sounds fantastic, right? Another powerful one, just like Safe Eyes, that can be used. It filters website content, monitors Facebook, which is great. Set time controls, which mean you could turn on and off internet through it, as well as your kid has a message going on in Facebook, and all of a sudden they delete it all because they want you to read it. Well, that's fine because we have it. Because good old NetNanny here has helped us, right? It helps block inappropriate games as well. Then there's Web Watcher, which once again, we believe should be a staple in every family. So we have the Open DNS family, and then Web Watcher is fantastic. Totally invisible, records all computer and internet activity, all chats, Skype chat, all chats, right? So it is fantastic and does not slow down your internet at all. All email activity you get as well. Instant messaging, Facebook messaging as well, you get from that. Plus, you can access all recorded logs from any computer. So you can go to any computer and figure out what's going on, what's happening, what's been sent. Because kids are getting smart, right? They go in the cache file, they delete this, and they delete that. Well, finally, we have these programs that we believe helps greatly. XXXchurch.com, XXXchurch.com is the leading ministry in pornography, right? And matter of fact, if you look in your appendix, we have all these porn statistics. That's where you get it from. It's up to date. It's a great website because they have a free program that allows you to download it to any computer, and anything your kid searches is sent to you. I used this for my accountability group about 10 years ago, where we say, okay, we are going to put this on all of our computers, and so whatever we search gets sent to 3 people: you and my accountability partner, my girlfriend, and my mom. As we said, mom, significant other, and one of us. So if we ever have a fear, we want to look at pornography or something inappropriate, we don't want mom to find out, and we don't want the wife to find out. And so it's a great, and it's free. It's free, which is awesome. It's a great place. Next thing here we put down is that keep all computers, of course, in an open area as much as we can. We always say the bedroom is not a place to entertain. It's a place to sleep. We don't do Thanksgiving in the bedroom. We do it downstairs somewhere, right? As much as we can, and we know it could be kind of crazy out there, that maybe the kid needs to use it in his room. Make sure you have the right controls. We know not every household it could do that. And we'll talk about here the next one we're talking about, which since kids can't delete browsers, make sure you get something that we're talking about tonight that can help out, where it can send you everything that you need that they may delete on their own. Does that make sense? And lastly, I'm not sure I put it in there, but we want you to stay informed. The easiest way that we stay informed is once a week, we type this in Google. You ready for it? Internet risk for teens. Enter. Internet risk for teens. Google it. Internet risk for teens once a week, and it'll give you updates of what do we need to know, what's out there. Oh my gosh, I never heard this app before. Katie sends it to her team. Have you heard this app before? Yeah, Katie, 2 months ago. Where have you been? We are here. It's landed. And so search that once a week, and that'll help you get updated about what's going on, what we need to be aware of. We always say, contact us. We're not foreign to the 2 a.m. phone call from the parent or from the kid. We're here to walk with you. We want to help out. Kids are Trinity, they find us safe to talk to, and we love that. And we tell the kids, your parents are part of the solution and not part of the problem. And we believe in that. We believe in transparency. And we believe that when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's what we let them know. We're going to be following you. We're going to have some accountability. We want to teach them cause and effect. We don't want to be as, okay, I'll throw it out there and see what I find. No, I don't want my kid to come close to anything. I want to stop it before it begins. And if they find a way and be smart enough to figure it out, it is what it is. We'll catch up to it when we can. But be transparent. I'm going to follow you. We have all this. You could delete everything in history, but we're going to have a copy of it. Be transparent with it. Next here is Appendix G for those who have gamers. You can look at it. It talks about, we're not going to go through it, but it talks about what games are the most addictive. On your own time, go ahead and do it. And lastly is Appendix J has internet contracts that we like, but Appendix M, I'm going to go over this real quick. There's a mom a couple years ago that wrote the best cell phone standards, not contracts. Contracts, the kid has to sign. And they're pretty much forced with a gun to their head, right? No. And they could tear it up and they could stop it, right? This right here is a great example. We're going to go over it real quick. Just the ones we feel like are important. 18 standards for an iPhone or a fill-in-the-blank phone.
Appendix M.
Appendix M as in mom. Sorry, Appendix M. Yeah, it goes back and front. The first thing a mom says is this. It's my phone. I bought it. I paid for it. I'm loaning it to you. Aren't I the greatest? Yes, it is your phone. You could do whatever you want, guys. It's not theirs, but I paid for half of it. That's great. Good job. I will always know the password. You need to know the password. If you got the new iPhone, put your thumb on there to record it, so then you can open it up at any time you want. Third thing it says, if it rings, she says, answer it. It's a phone. Say hello. Use your manners. Do not ignore a phone call that says mom or dad. We believe in this. We believe if you do not answer phone calls from mom and dad, then you are abusing it. You lose what you abuse. But I don't know what's happening. Yeah, but if Bobby was giving you a call, you answer like right away. We don't hear it, right? So
Except
make
for how
point.
little teens talk on the phone now, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are saying, is the only person who calls them is their mom and their dad
Right.
now. There's just massive texting.
Number 4, it says, hand the phone in to one of your parents. This person says 7:30 on the weekdays. Everyone says every night on the weekends at 9 p.m. We do believe you're Blockbuster. Turn it in. Don't let them sleep with it. But Joe, the alarm. We have alarm clocks. They're fantastic, right? They're great. But we want you to turn it because we do see after hours, the devil's hour, witching out, whatever you call it. It's true, right? And the other part of it is we know if that's considered one of the electronics in the room, they're not going to get much sleep. Does that make sense? And so make sure you turn it in and you give it back to them every day. Does that make sense? Number 6, we're going to skip 5. Number 6 is this. If it falls into the toilet, it gets smashed at Catalina, or it gets vanishes in thin air, you are responsible for the replacement costs or the repairs. Let them work it off, but they have no jobs. It's $5 for a car wash, $6 for the kitchen. Let them add it up and work for it. Let them understand what responsibility it is and that these things are not cheap. Number 7 is do not use technology to lie, fool, or deceive another human being. Do not involve yourself in conversations that are hurtful to others. Be a good friend first and stay the heck out of the crossfire, right? And so understand as we want to create filters for them. We don't want them to be gossipers. We want them to understand their words are so much of the perception from others, that their words is what creates their perception from others. But I didn't mean to say that. I understand. But we understand that our words are very important. It's like a double-edged sword, right? Like it says in Proverbs, the tongue is a double-edged sword.
A good way to see that too is when you see your kid or teen screenshotting a text message log. This is a very common form of gossip and slander in our ministry. That's when you hold this and this at the same time and you press down. Students are texting each other pictures of their conversations with someone else all the time. So it's like a screenshotted image. If you see your child doing that, say, hey, why are you taking a picture of that conversation? What did they say? What did you say? What happened there? Or if you're scrolling through their text logs or their chat logs and there is an image, click on it. See why they took a picture of what they said. That's a big form of gossip that we're seeing over and over again.
And the big way they do it is this, especially in junior high. Ask Bobby if he likes me. Bobby, you like her? Yes. Screenshot, send your way. Oh, he likes me. This is great. And that's what they do it. No, ask Bobby yourself. Okay, 8 and 9, do not text or email anything, this device that you would not say in person. That's great. Number 10, no porn, period. Number 11 is turn off, silence it, put it away in public. This is huge, right? It's like I watch The Walking Dead. They're like that in the mall. They're like this. They don't know where they're going. That's really weird. Anyways, don't recommend that show, but it's pretty good. So especially at restaurants, at movies, my wife and I love this. We go to like BJ Chicago Pizza and we watch The Families. We're like, none of this is going to happen in our culture. And everyone's like this, right? We do that. But then our food comes, my wife takes a picture of the food. Honey, no, we can't be that family either. If food had a soul, they'd all be gone by now. Everything that we've ever cooked, we take pictures of. That's okay. Number 12, do not send or receive pictures of your private parts to anyone else's private parts. Don't laugh. Someday you will be tempted to, in spite of your high intelligence. It's risky and could ruin your teenage college adult life. True. It is always a bad idea. Cyberspace is vast and more powerful than you, and it's hard to make anything of this magnitude disappear, including a bad reputation. State of California is big on this. The book that we got a lot of information on that we recommend is The Digital Invasion. It's great, fantastic. It talks about how many kids that are used to teenagers have done this, sent it, girls and boys, and received it, girls and boys, and didn't do anything about it. And what happens is they got prosecuted. Felony, they're now sex offenders age 14, 15, 16. It's huge. You guys understand? So one thing we talk about is recite, rehearse, and that kind of stuff. You tell your kid, if you get something that's very sexual, that is sexual in any way, come to me. You're not going to get punished for receiving anything. Give it to me, and we will delete it, and we will take care of it, and we will make sure the other person knows right away. We don't want to play with this in the state of California. It's not good. Let's move on here. Number 13 says, don't take zillion of pictures of everything, including food. Live your experiences. Create memories. 14, leave your phone at home sometimes. This is the old FOMO thing, which means fear of missing out. It's okay. Leave your phone at home. It's okay. You could do just fine. Number 15 is download music outside of just the crazy stuff you listen to. 16 is play a game with words or puzzle or brain teasers sometimes. It doesn't always have to be Minecraft, these ones that are so intense. 17 is keep your eyes up, right? Seeing the world happen around you, stare at a window, listen to birds, take a walk, talk to a stranger. Wonder without Googling. Yes. What does that look like? Google it, kid, right? Number 18, lastly, this parent says so well, you will mess up and I'll take away your phone. We will sit down and talk about it. We will start all over again. You and I are always learning. I'm on your team. We are in this together. And that's the key there, right? That we're in it together. Let's talk about this. I want to act in a way that propels you closer to me, does not compel you away from me. I want you to understand that I'm part of your team. I get this is important to you. Let's just make sure we have some standards, right? And so that's why we want to make sure no matter what you choose with the phone, have some standards that are specific, that are written down. Make sure if you have an iPhone, because iPhone or an Android, that the teen store is your store. You know what I mean? Where the Play Store where they download apps and buy apps, or the Apple Store where they download and buy apps on their phone, make it your store, not theirs. Your ID, your password. Because when they download anything, they need your password. And you can look at it and say, yeah, I don't have that one. It's not going to happen, buddy. Or, yes, you can have that one. If you don't do that, they could download anything without you knowing it. And it's good to make it your store.
You'll get an email whenever they download something anyways.
Right. Right, exactly. So, anyways, what I'm going to have Katie talk about is, kind of sum up tonight, is we're going to talk about, she's going to talk about apps and websites that we believe you guys need to know that are out there, and maybe in ways that might be being used inappropriately. Yeah.
First of all, I don't think that your kid needs an iPhone. I don't think that your teenager needs an iPhone. I think that your teenager is going to be okay without an iPhone. Does 70% of our high school group probably have a smartphone? Yes. Will they feel extremely left out? Yes. But if that's your family's decision not to have one, I want you to hear I support it, okay? That is going to save them so much pain. That is going to save them a lot of hurt in the long run and a lot of problems. But these are apps or websites or ways that they can get connected in these areas that I want you to be in the know of, specifically a few of them, because I have a shut it down policy. We do not go there, we do not download that, and that is never going to be used for a good thing. This is just a list of social media glossary for you. These are good and bad things. There's a mixture of all of them.
Appendix
We're in
I,
Appendix
by the way.
I. Appendix I. We are starting off with, I texted 60 students last Thursday or the Thursday before, and I said, name the top 3 worst apps that you use with your friends. And we are starting off with number 1, Ask.fm. That was in almost all of their top 3s. Ask.fm is an app, and it's also linked to your Facebook, and you can somehow link it to your Instagram in ways, and Twitter especially. Ask.fm is an anonymous asking site. This is how it works. Hey, ask me anything, exclamation point. There are lots of students here who have this. This is normal, okay? These are things I see regularly. Of course, how horrifying for them that I'm on this, okay? So they post it publicly, hey, ask me anything. Then below it is a little logo, the Ask FM logo. It's blue and green. And you click on it, and what you open is a chat log between anyone anonymously and this person. And they will never know and can't find out who asked them this or said this. This is what I read all the time. Where do you want to live when you grow up? What do you like? I heard you hooked up with him. I know you had sex with him. Don't deny it. Just tell me the truth. Everybody knows now. I didn't. Well, that's fine. I know you did, and I'm saying it. And it just tumbles, like painful tumbles. Ask FM. I mean, what are teenagers using anonymous questions for? Okay, we don't need that. It's already bad enough in person, okay? But Ask FM is one of mine that I say thumbs down to. I'm not going to go over all these. A lot of these are unimportant. Facebook, you all should know what that is. Hashtag, hopefully you figured out what a hashtag is by now. It links groupings of words together on a specific site. Instagram, I do want to talk about for a second because I find Instagram to be a very awesome app and site for a lot of different reasons. Instagram is one of the greatest sites at fighting pornography. They actually are actively fighting it. True story. Is it working? Not really. People are uploading pictures every second. What are they going to do, right? But for the most part, you can report something as spam and it can be taken down immediately. So they do a pretty good job of that, Instagram. I've seen Instagram hurt more identities and really hurt people's self-worth and values in a lot of ways. But I do believe that Instagram, if used properly, and people often create new sites or different ways to get involved in Instagram. A lot of students here have like an Instagram for soccer, or an Instagram for cheer, for themselves. Just make sure that you know all the accounts that your kid has, every one of them. Make sure that you are totally in the know about that. But Instagram in general, there's not a lot of comments. It's really just pictures. And if they're posting appropriate ones, it's fun. It's an easy way to do it. Just kind of stay in the know and be up to date on their Instagram pictures and such. I have a pretty funny policy that a lot of you guys know, that kids can't follow me on Instagram. Students can't follow me. I have a private Instagram. I think that all students should have a private Instagram. I did not say that yet. Your child needs to have a private Instagram, not a public one, unless it's something that does not share their name and stuff like that. So private Instagrams. But students can't follow me on Instagram, and it's hilarious. I mean, the reactions that they have is comical. You would not believe it. I added you a week ago. I know, you can't follow me until you graduate. What do you have on there? Nothing. You can't follow me. Why not? Because I wanted to have a website where I posted pictures for my friends. And my identity is not found in how many followers I have. And I've said that so many times to students you would not believe. And they've said back to me more times than I can even tell you, you would have so many followers if you let us follow you. You're right, I would. And in my narcissistic brain sometimes, honestly, I think to myself, I should just have a public one. I have 500 followers tomorrow. But I am doing this for my own personal boundaries. I am saying, Katie, people that you know in real life and talk to regularly are the people you're gonna let follow you on Instagram. Okay, and it's not gonna be teens, it's not gonna be students. I just have to have a boundary zone to show that to them and let that be something that's clear. Kik is right below that. I think no to Kik. I think that Kik is not good. Kik is a chat, online video chat, instant messaging. Strangers can add you if they like your picture. Messages are deleted after they read. This is currently where a lot of the most inappropriate messaging is happening, is on Kik. You'll hear students say, hey, kick me, if like they don't really know each other but want to talk, because you just search their name. You don't need to know anything but their name or their username. So even if you go on someone's Facebook, you find their name, you think they're cute, you kick them and you can talk to them. You don't need anything to talk to them. Nothing. It's all public. Netflix, I already told you, just is a red flag because there's porn on it, but what I love about Netflix is that it says recently watched. I'm so thankful for that on Netflix. The whole entire top part is recently watched. If there's something sketchy in that first bar, it's there. It's so out there. It's great for any family. It's like, what are you watching? Some weird, funny show that someone's watching in your household. Pinterest, I think, is fantastic, but you should know that there is some inappropriate things on there. It's still worth following your kid. Reddit is actually really big for teenage boys, is largely where we're seeing this. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th grade boys. We're seeing a lot that Reddit is just kind of an area you can get into darker and darker corners of the internet. Everything in Reddit is tagged with not appropriate for work, NAWF. There's a red tag on a ton of things on Reddit, and that means don't open it if your boss is around, which should also mean don't open it at all. But students are kind of trying to figure that out. On the bottom, you'll see Snapchat. I get more questions about Snapchat from parents than any other app out there. I think Snapchat is most inappropriately used 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I think that's the truth. Their frontal lobes haven't developed fully. They honestly think that I can just send this and it will go away. The amount of painful students that I've walked life with who, when they were a freshman, Snapchatted or sexted with somebody, and their senior year, the pictures came back. I mean, it's heartbreaking, like heartbreaking. And so I think you just need to be smart about Snapchat. I have a lot of older high school students who use it, and it's funny and it's fine, and I don't see a lot of red flags on it. I have a Snapchat that I'm using just to try to like constantly catch students. Like, did you send all? And I got it. But I would say Snapchat is something that you really need to monitor if you're gonna let your kid do it, if at all. What it is you take a picture and you get to choose how long they can see it for. And when they're done, when that amount of time is over, it's gone.
Like 5 seconds, 1 second,
it can only
10
go up
seconds.
to 10 seconds. But they screenshot it and keep it.
Yeah, and the two guys who created it are young guys, and they came out and said, it's not deleted. A, they have it all, and B, they said it's still on the phone if you really want to look for it.
You can
People
figure out a
really
way to
want
get
to try
to
to
it.
figure a way to look at it. It's not deleted. It's just an illusion.
We have a lot of different ones on here, but I want to go to the other side, Tinder. This is one of the most up-to-date ones. I want you to check your kids' phones to see if they have Tinder tonight. Tinder, I'm just now kind of getting all of a grip on what it is. Basically, you open the app and imagine that you're looking at a map, like location services, like Google Map, of your own area in like a 5-mile radius. And imagine that there's like 15 red pins on that image. That's what Tinder is. You click on one of the red pins and a picture of somebody around you opens. You can click on it and start talking to them. So why is this so scary? For 100 reasons. They are actually close to you. Your child can tell you where they live. It is creepy, and the point of it is like the casual hookup. That is the point of Tinder.
Yeah, and what you do on is teens are doing it is it's a picture of you and they see they're like hot or not. And you're like, oh, hot. And then they see the other person's picture is hot too, and then just connects them and say, hey, we just both think we're hot. And so it's kind of like this, okay, so we kind of get someone who maybe might be insecure or something like that. They finally realize, okay, someone thinks I'm good looking, I think they're good looking, let's meet up at the spectrum or something like that. So you can see where it could go wrong many ways.
And I have students, I have amazing seniors who are the most responsible, godly, the kind of kid I would want younger kids to be like students, who raise their hand and tell me like, yeah, when I was in 7th grade, I talked to creepy people on the internet. And I'm like, yes, please tell your parents, or please tell somebody that that's true. And they're like, yeah. And like 6th and 7th grade, my parents did not know, but I was on like chats at night. I didn't find out till like 8th grade. One of them was this old lady. I'm like, okay. Trying to help them through that. Okay, exactly. The next one down is Tumblr, and my joke about Tumblr is, do you want a fast way to tumble into the dark corners of the internet? It is through Tumblr. Tumblr is a lot of different micro-blogging sites. It's where you can find something like, I like soccer. So I'm going to go through and find 100,000 people who have created Tumblrs based off the idea of soccer. The problem is, of course, at the bottom of every Tumblr is tagged things like soccer, men, women, ladies, girls, boys. You click on boys and you open up to the world of something very awful. So it's like this quick, how the students say, which I love, it is pretty hard to stay on the good side of Tumblr. Our students have said that. You have to work hard to stay on the good side of Tumblr.
And what we recognize about Tumblr is every person who we've seen as cut has had a Tumblr.
Yes.
Not everyone on Tumblr cuts, but everyone that we've seen who cuts has a Tumblr. Yahoo bought Tumblr not so long ago, and they said, we're going to clean it up, and we're going to call it Yumbler, right? Honestly, that's what they said. And instantly, people dropped it. And they're like, whoa. We're going to respect the users, and we're going to keep it unfamily friendly, and we're going to continue to call it Tumblr. And it's not a rarity. What kids find on there are the following. Suicide notes, pictures of suicides, people who cut names and stuff in them, real pictures that people take pictures of and then send it on there. It's not rare. It's not rare that when you go on Tumblr, we ask our kids, obviously you've seen some type of pornography or some sexual picture. Yes, I have. I didn't search it. Exactly. That usually some type of suicide pictures, discussing suicide letters, cutting pictures. And the worst part about it, there's a lot of worst parts. One of the worst parts about it is it's a pro-anorexic site. So
there's a lot of pro-anorexic pages.
Yeah, and so people who want to be anorexic, they cheer them on, and they teach them ways to hide it and that kind of stuff. It's happening, and it's pretty disgusting. It is disgusting. So we say Tumblr, Dunzo, we call it. Dunzo and Gonzo. Gonzo and Dunzo. No, Gone and Zo. Gone.
So those are a few of our key ones that we just kind of want you to look on your kid's phone to see if they have, honestly, or computer to see if they visited. Those are some basics that we're kind of in the know for right now. I honestly don't think this is going anywhere. So I don't want you to go home and like unplug everything and yell and put your kid under a blanket and just hold them. I don't think that this really is going. Yeah, maybe you should, but hold them. But this isn't going anywhere. Nothing is changing. We're just trying to figure out a way to get a little ahead of the game, so to walk alongside you and your kids. I think the greatest thing that you can do today is learn how to use these sites. That is me as a youth pastor. Figure out how to use Facebook, figure out how to use Instagram, figure out how to use Twitter, make an account, be embarrassing. I do not care. The kids tell me all the time, my mom commented on my photo that I looked pretty. Okay, great, I love your mom. She should do it, okay? And just making that presence known is just a basic step. Your kids can have healthy and appropriate boundaries on the internet. You can teach them to your children. They are gonna mess up, but this is totally possible, is what I'm trying to tell you. We can do this. It's gonna be okay.
And we want to be allies, so if you guys find something, you're like, okay, Joe and Katie should know about it, send it our way. We want to hear about it. Because we are joking around. By the time the hour is done tonight, we're going to walk away from here, and all this is just out of date. It's just none of it matters anymore. Who knows?
That isn't actually true, but we sometimes feel like
but that's how it goes, So we want to know what's going on. If you guys see something, and you're like, okay, Katie, Joe, recognize this, be aware of it, it's out there. We want to protect our kids. We want to know. We need help from you guys.
One of the ways that we want to help you with that is if you have a wireless provider, if you have an iPad, if you have an iPhone that you just don't know how to protect, this guy in the back filming is Ray. He's our tech guru and friend. And he is great at stuff like that. If you want to bring your technology to church and have him set it up, we would love to work that out with you and help you with that. We just want you to take the time to figure out how to do that. That's a really important part of kind of what we're doing. And we want to have this on video for you guys because a lot of times after these seminars, it's like, I don't remember. I want to tell my friend whose kid's awful or something like that. So we want to make sure that you guys kind of have that. I saw some hands. Should we do some Q&A?
Sure. Yeah. Any questions?
How do you protect like phones that are going straight to 3G, 4G?
Great. That's one of the things that I was thinking when Joe was speaking. If your kids can turn off their wireless and then they just have service, keep that in mind. And the answer is nothing. Nothing. I mean, does any of those work?
I think Keyboards Church has an app you can download, and you can disable like Safari on an iPhone, and then it routes everything through that app. But I mean, you do like parental controls on the actual iPhone, but other than that,
But can they turn off then as well? I mean, can they go back in their settings and do it? You know?
you would have the password, and so they can.
Yeah.
Like they can install things, but they can't uninstall them. So then you know what they're installing. There's all sorts of settings you can say like they can't or whatever.
So what he's saying is you can delete the Safari browser, their internet browser altogether, and then you can add the Covenant Eyes browser so that what they're viewing is going through that app. But if you have more questions about that, ask Ray.
I think I'm getting ready to switch over services, but AT&T last time I talked to them, they said you can go on for like $5.99 a month. You can like turn off the service, the 3G or 4G service at night.
Cool.
Basically, they may charge you for it, but they said you can go on and 10 o'clock there that shuts down as well.
That would be awesome.
So there's probably a lot of people already have that.
That would be awesome.
Great.
You just said in a past talk that Instagram is not for junior hires. Do you still feel that?
This is rough waters. I mean, I've made more students mad than I can count with that. I had a girl say to me this morning, "What are you going to tell my mom?" So I would be very careful with that because it's also the highest point of Instagram identity. It's the highest point in a girl and boy's life where they feel their identity is found there. So taking that away from them can be not upsetting, detrimental. Those.
Actually, I misspoke. I meant Snapchat.
Oh, yeah, cut it out. Snapchat, they're going to be fine. They're going to cut it out. Shut it down. But Instagram in junior high, I mean, we use it in junior high ministry a lot here. You just need to watch it.
Yeah.
Do you have a question back there?
Yeah, you were talking about brain fatigue earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to a certain point, right? You also said, they have their phone there, they're texting, and then, looking at the screens one job. What if what they're using, like for example, for work, right? I'm on the screen all the time, right? They're doing research, and I don't want to be naive about it, but
Right.
it's for research purposes, for homework purposes. You've got 2 hours there, right? And then maybe there's another hour throughout the day on the internet or something else. Is that considered the same type of screen?
Well, they say about brain fatigue is mainly about if you're trying to learn something, right? You're trying to learn a new, I don't know, chapter on something, or you're trying to learn a new concept of biology, whatever it may be, is that when you have something that distracts you, it takes you away back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that thing that distracts you increases cortisol. The key part is the stress hormone, because the stress hormone keeps you from learning anything new. So it blocks those receptors. So we know that technology, for example, is what increases the cortisol. So if the disruption is the dog that comes up and wants you to throw the tennis ball, that's not going to cause issues of brain fatigue. But when it comes to more of the fact that a cell phone, an iPad, a TV show going back and forth over 2 hours, that's when it's going to create brain fatigue.
But you also mentioned the dopamine,
Yeah.
after 2 hours, and you get tranquilizers and whatnot. But what if the media that they're looking at, right? Because I'm hearing now, I'm hearing now that everyone's getting iPads.
I know.
So they're bringing them home.
I know.
Using them for homework, so you're on the internet.
Right.
You're going out and you're getting your homework there, and you're doing my nephews and nieces. So is that considered 2 hours in front of the screen?
Well, and that's the worry that's going on right now. Like, Lou's doing it here soon. I know Korean Lutheran has their laptop. That's the concern. The fact is two-dimensional relationships like that will cause a brain fatigue. And that's the concern. So in that book I told you about, one of the recommendations for the neuroscientists is that they say if your school is one of those type of schools and they're realizing they're doing that, right? I know at Vanguard, we're trying to keep away from that, although we're realizing it's coming here close, is they say every 30 to 45 minutes a break and go for a walk, right? And so, for instance, one of the things they actually tell you to do is go outside, get your vitamin D, and when you walk outside, you go back and forth with your eyes.
And then
what that does, if you guys don't know what EMDR therapy is we use for PTSD, right? Yeah, PTSD for soldiers, is that a psychologist found out back in the day is when they're stressing out, they walk outside and go back and forth. It basically eases the mind and puts it at peace. And so then you can go back in and you can redo it again. So the key part there is to make sure you don't go to this 2-hour mark, that there's breaks in between. So for instance, for like my ADD or ADHD clients I have, is one of the things I tell them is I want 50 or 45 minutes on, 15 minutes to 20 minutes outside shooting hoops or something like that, right? Hard part is usually they don't come back in. Because they forget, right? But we want to make sure then there's breaks. So, when these high schools are trying to do this, they don't understand what they are also creating here, which is they're creating this attachment, a two-dimensional relationship attachment that we know is not healthy for their brains, right? And in many ways enabling it. And it's a lot different from picking up an actual book, right? We know that because the neural pathways. And so we got to make sure then there's breaks. And we make sure that the breaks. Right.
And we're frustrated with you at the school systems and how they're not protecting the kids. So I just want to say that out loud, because you are the ones who will change school systems. It's not us. It's going to be parents who say, whoa, this iPad has no protection. And my kids' friends who don't have parents who care about these kinds of things are just showing my kids these things. So I want to say that out loud to you, because you're the powerful ones in this room in the school systems, and I would love for us to be backed up on that. How are you telling the school systems, how is this being protected? How is this being walked through? How is our kid being protected from the offensive, is that what you're saying? Sure. Yeah, just the evils that are coming at your kid.
Or how does this affect our kids' brain in the long run? What's the physiological effects of this? Is this really better? I know it might be cheaper, maybe it's easier for our budget, but how is this really affecting long term when it comes to relationships with them, when it comes to actually what's going on with brain development?
How do you recommend or wean your clients? Right? I mean, we have young kids, and I kid you not, on Saturday I told him I was going to put a TV in the pool. And he kind of laughed, but the reaction when you shut it off is exactly
Oh, I know. Or it's kind of like, I tell people, it's like taking away a drug from a drug addict, right? No, I gotta do this like a tantrum. You're 18 years old. I can't survive. I need an IV of internet.
healthy ways to wean. And
Yeah, in that book too, it talks about this. Their proposal, which I agree with, is to first cut it in half. It's like cigarettes. Cut the pack in half. Do it in a quarter a week afterwards. It takes about 3 weeks to create new habits in your mind. It takes about 3 weeks to physiologically create new habits, period. And so we want a 3-week mark. Half, quarter, and quarter, and that's what we're going to do. And the key part when it comes to like smoking and that kind of stuff, our addiction, or to say the same thing with the internet, is we need to replace it with something else.
Yeah.
Right? And so replace it with,
Family game night.
Yeah, family game night. Throw them in the pool. But you gotta replace them. But of course, as you see in the first, clip that we saw, all that's boring. Well, it's okay for them to be bored. I'm sorry, son. Boredom's an I issue. So one day when you're bored in your marriage, you need to make it fun. When one day you say you're not happy, well, happiness is also an I issue. It belongs to you. Take ownership of it. I want you to start getting creative, because 2D is basically 2 senses. This is why they want my little 15-month-old to do it. Our pediatrician's like, don't do it. No, none. I want to sleep. She's sick. Let's just have them watch Barney, right?
Yeah, the other issue I've run into is just getting periodicals electronically. Like my 6-year-old wants to check the box scores, so I don't get the paper anymore. And he's got to go on to ESPN.com and he goes through all the scores in like 30 minutes. I mean, so.
Well, and I think when it comes to 30 minutes looking at baseball scores, I think we're okay. I think I think we're okay there. I think as parents, we got to realize who our kids are. There's some kids that when they go and try on the internet and say, I'm going to look at the box scores, they're going to go somewhere else pretty quickly. So know who your kids are. Like in my family culture, I mean, the fact is, our pediatrician says 0, 0, 0, 0. I understand the 0. My wife had a 100-degree temperature last week. I have a 2-hour lecture I got prepared for the next day at the university. We're looking at each other. He's going, which means outside. We're like, no. And we're like, Barney goes to the farm. Press play. And that's how we're like, and honestly, somebody's got to do it. But I think it's consistency, when we're consistent with it, where we don't have some sense of a normal balance that we create, that we let them know at times, hey, I'm letting you do this, but you have about 30 minutes, to look at that, or with them as we do it. I don't think necessarily has to be so strict per se. I think know your kid and make your family culture one that you realize maybe I have a kid who gets very obsessed with things like this or video games, and I'm going to lose them. So because of that, not so much. But this kid of mine is not, so they can do video games and do this and that and have straight A's and have a normal relationship with someone in real life and that kind of stuff. So know your kid and know your kid's temperament as well.
Daughter downloaded another web
Browser.
and used the command line to access it. Would that, you talked about, find that anyway, even though it's not?
Yeah, the DNS
The open
family.
DNS.
Yeah, all browsers they'll cover,
Okay,
which is the
so
key.
Even though it's not visible.
Right. All browsers.
We know we're over time. Is there any last questions that are out there?
You're talking about how if the kids are on screens for more than 2 hours a day, what about adults who have jobs that are in front of screens all day?
So we have a fully formed brain, so because of that, the effect is not as much or as deep. And remember, if you read this book, the key part about this is social. It's social interaction is they find the most difficulty to come to the dopamine levels when it comes to tranquility and attachment part of the brain. And so mainly like Facebook, Twitter, texting, and that kind of stuff. Invasion of the digital invasion. Yeah, look it up on Amazon. 2 Christian neuroscientists. Great book. Yeah, go ahead.
Where do you get the little?
Oh, I have a bunch of them. I can get them for you on the way out.
And one more thing. Thank you both very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Of course.
Great speech, really good time. Just as we hear about just the potential negatives of social networking, I was saying, what's the benefit of just completely unplugging and not even having it until the age of 18? Do we really need Facebook and Twitter? Is there really the benefit there as opposed to
I think need is kind of a big word, but I think it's currently a social culture. And so what I would respond to with that is you want your kid to feel social at school. You wouldn't want to just have your kid be self-isolated if they learned more. You wouldn't want to just pull your kid out of something if it benefited them in a certain way and protected them from something. There's a lot of ways that we want kids to, by the time they're 18, to know how to navigate it, to know how to before they leave the house, to know what that looks like and what that means. There's a lot of kind of pros and cons to that. I want to close this in prayer before we leave. Is that okay? Father God, we recognize that you are not afraid of technology. God, that you do not shake in your boots about this, that you are not worried. God, that you are not wondering what's going to happen next, that you have a good plan, Lord. We also recognize that you protect our children, God, that you love us and care for us and are for us and desire for us to live righteous lives and for us to teach our children that. So God, we just entrust that to you again. God, we say one more time that you are in control, that technology will not win or overpower us or overshadow your love. Father, we recognize that you are protecting these children and that you are going to teach us every step of the way in utter dependence. So God, we are dependent upon you. We love you so much. We are grateful for the ways that we are learning. And we ask, God, that you would show us our steps in order to protect our kids and live holy lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Feel free to ask us questions. We'll be up here.
Where's the stickers at?
The stickers are, Jen has the stickers. She's right over there.
Hey.